Sometimes, destiny enters your life like a tragedy before revealing itself as a second chance. Children chased tires through dusty paths. Women sold roasted corns beneath umbrellas. Old men played draft beneath mango trees. Welcome into this channel, and before I continue, hit that subscription button. Haha, very nice. The Hamilton wind swept through the village of Arechoku like a whisper from another world. Dust floated through the air. Palm trees groaned softly, and somewhere in the distance, a baby cried. Obina adjusted the heavy Raffia basket on his bicycle and wiped sweat from his forehead. Inside the bucket were carved masks and wooden sculptures he planned to sell in Aba Market before sunset. Business has been terrible for months. Too many deaths, too little food, too many promises he could no longer keep. His wife had died 2 years earlier during childbirth. Since then, grief followed him like a shadow. Some nights he still woke expecting to hear her voice. Instead, there was only silence, the kind of silence that slowly eats a man alive. Obina kicked the bicycle to life and began to ride into the narrow red clay road leading to the forest. The village believed the forest was cursed after dark. Obina didn't care. Anger was more frightening than ghosts. As the bicycle rattled over stones and roots, he noticed something strange ahead. A woman stood beneath the road. She wore white wrappers stained with dirt. Her hair looked wild, and in her arms she carried a baby wrapped in cloth. Obina slowed carefully. The woman stepped forward weakly. "Please," she whispered, "help me." Obina frowned. "What happened?" "My village was attacked," she said breathlessly. Men with guns. Fear flicked across her face. "Please take my child somewhere safe." The baby cried softly. Obina looked around nervously. Bandits had become common in nearby areas. He didn't want trouble. "I cannot get involved," he said quickly. The woman grabbed his arm desperately. "They are coming." Then gunshots echoed faintly through the forest. Obina froze. The woman shoved the baby towards him. "Take him!" Before Obina could react, she put the child into the Raffia basket strapped behind the bicycle. Then she ran into the trees. "Wait!" Obina shouted. Another gunshot cracked nearby. Fear took over. Within thinking, Obina accelerated down the road. Dust exploded behind him. His heart pounded violently. After several minutes, the forest became quiet again. Only then did he remember the baby. Obina nearly lost control of the bicycle. He stopped abruptly. Slowly, he turned toward the basket. The child stared up at him with wide eyes. A tiny boy, maybe 1 year old. Obina cursed under his breath. No. The baby began crying loudly. Obina looked back toward the forest around. Should he return? What if armed men were still there? What if the woman was dead already? Pain twisted inside him. "I cannot keep a child," he muttered, but the baby reached upward with tiny fingers. Something about the child's eyes made Obina hesitate. He looked so much like... Obina forced the thought away. He climbed back into the bicycle. "I'll take you to the police in town," he said firmly, but deep down, he already knew he was lying. Because in villages like his, police questions became problems, and problems became accusations. So instead, he carried the child home. The village of Arechoku sat beneath thick forests and shallow rivers. Children chased child through dusty paths. Women sold roasted corn beneath umbrellas. Old men played draft beneath mango trees. As Obina parked outside his small house, his neighbor Mama Ifeoma spotted the basket immediately. Her eyes widened. Obina, she cried over. What is that? Obina sighed heavily. A problem? The baby peeked out from the basket. Mama Ifeoma gasped. Whose child is this? I don't know. The old woman crossed herself dramatically. Jesus save us. Obina carried the child inside quickly. Keep your voice down. But gossip moved faster than Amazon fire. Within an hour, half the village already knew. Some believed Obina and secretly remarried. Others claimed that he stole the child. A few whispered something darker, that perhaps the child was not human at all, because a strange thing had already begun happening. That night, the villagers dogged back non-stop. Around midnight, someone claimed he saw a woman in white standing near Obina's compound. By morning, fear had spread. Chief Naji summoned Obina immediately. The village square buzzed with mamas of Obina arrived carrying the baby. Chief Naji sat beneath a large umbrella surrounded by elders. You found the child where? The chief asked. Near the forest road. And the mother? She disappeared. The elders exchanged uneasy looks. One old man leaned forward. The forest borders a Barazuga camps. Another elder nodded grimly. Bad spirits wander there. Obina rolled his eyes slightly with respect. Elders, this is simply a lost child. Mama Izine, the village diviner, stared intensely at the baby. Her expression slowly changed. What? What? Chief Naji asked. The old woman's voice became soft. This child carries something. The crowd murmured nervously. Obina frowned. What does that even mean? Mama Esne ignored him. She pointed toward the child's neck. There, beneath the cloth, rested a small bronze pendant shaped like a rising sun. The old woman gasped sharply. Chief Naji stiffed. Obina looked confused. What? The chief stood slowly. That symbol belonged to the Ochoku family. Silence spread through the square. Even children stopped moving. Obina blinked. The Wayne family from Enugu? The chief nodded. Yeah. Years ago, during political violence, their youngest son vanished with his wife and newborn child. Mama Ifeoma whispered, shaking. People said enemies haunted them. The chief looked at the baby again. If this child belonged to that bloodline, dangerous people may still be searching for him. Obina suddenly felt cold. I was not part of this, but before anyone could respond, a scream erupted nearby. The crowd turned instantly. Smoke rose from the edge of the village. Obina's eyes dropped. My house! He sprinted toward the compound. Villagers followed behind him. By the time he arrived, flames already consumed half of the roof. The crowd turned instantly. Smoke rose from the edge of the village. Obina's heart dropped. My house! He sprinted toward the compound. Villagers followed him behind. By the time he arrived, flames already consumed half of the roof. And the sound beside them, burning house, was a tall man in black clothing. The stranger held a machete loosely at his side. 3 other armed men stood nearby. The leader smiled faintly. "Bring the child." Fear gripped the village immediately. Chief Nnaji arrived breathlessly. "Who are you?" The man ignored him completely. His eyes remained fixed on the baby. "That child does not belong here." Obinna stepped backward protectively. "You burned my house." The man shrugged. "You can rebuild a house." Then his smile vanished. "But not your life." One of the villagers ran for help. The armed men immediately raised rifles. Panic exploded. People scattered screaming. Obinna clutched the child tightly and ran. Gunshot cracked behind him. Dust buzzed around his feet. The baby cried loudly. Obinna sprinted through narrow alleys toward the forest paths. He had no plan, only fear. Branches whipped against his face as he entered the trees. Behind him, voices shouted angrily. "They went this way." Obinna's chest burned. His legs arched, but he kept running. Finally, deep inside the forest, he collapsed beside a stream. The baby stared at him silently. Now, Obinna breathed heavily. "What have you brought in my life?" The child reached out and touched his beard gently. And for the first time in years, just a little, that tiny love surprised him more than anything else. The baby smiled too, a real smile. Obinna looked away quickly. He had spent 2 years avoiding love, avoiding attachment, because losing his wife had destroyed something inside him. And now fate had drawn a child into his arms, a child being haunted. As evening approached, Obinna found an abandoned hunter's hut deep in the forest. He lit a small fire carefully. The baby slept wrapped in his jacket. Outside insects sat in the darkness. Obinna stared in the flames. Then he noticed something strange. The bronze pendants around a baby's neck very warm. He touched it carefully. Suddenly, voices echoed in his mind. A woman screaming, gunfire, running footsteps. Then a man shouting, "Protect him! Never let them take Chica." Obinna jerked back in shock. The pendant called instantly. His hands trembled. What was that? The baby opened his eyes, and for a brief second, the pendant glowed faintly. Outside the hut, footsteps moved through the darkness. Obinna immediately grabbed a hunting knife. The footsteps stopped. Then a familiar voice whispered, "Obinna." Mama Enzine emerged slowly from the trees carrying a lantern. Relief flooded him. "How did you find us?" The old woman smiled slightly. Spirits speak when people listen. Obinna groaned. "Please not tonight." She sat beside the fire calmly. "The child is important. I already figured that out." Mama Ainsley studied him carefully. "Do you know why you took him?" Obinna frowned. "I didn't take him." The mother forced him into my basket. Shook her head slowly. "No." Her eyes narrowed gently. "You stayed because you had recognized him." Obinna looked confused. Mama Zin reached into her bag and removed an old photograph. She handed it to him. Obina's breast caught instantly. The woman in the photo looked exactly like his late wife, younger but unmistakable. What is this? She had a sister. Mama Anthony said softly. Obina frowned. A twin sister? The world seemed to stop. What? She disappeared years ago after marrying into the Ojukwu family. Obina stared at the sleeping child. His chest tightened painfully. Mama Anthony's voice lowered. The boy is your nephew. Silence consumed that heart. Obina's eyes filled slowly. No. He remembered the child's eyes, the familiar smile, the strange feeling the moment he saw him. The strange feeling the moment he first saw him. Blood. The boy was family. And without even knowing, he had kidnapped his own sister-in-law's child. Tears burned Obina's eyes. My wife never told me. Mama Esne nodded sadly. The family feud was dangerous. Secrets kept people alive. Obina looked at the baby again. Little Cheka slept peacefully against his chest. A child who had lost everything, just like him. Outside, distant voices echoed through the forest. The hunters were close. Mama Anthony stood immediately. They found us. Obina wiped his eyes quickly. What do we do? The old woman handed him a small leather pouch. Take this river past the east. There is a church mission near the highway. And you? She smiled softly. An old woman can see the wicked men. Before Obina could protest, Mama instantly disappeared into the forest shambles. Moments later, screams erupted in the distance. The gunshot. Obina grabbed Cheka tight and ran. The river path ceased dangerous through the thick forest. Man slowed every step. Rain began pouring heavily. Behind him, flashlight beams flickered through the trees. Over there, Obina's heart slammed violently. He stamped across rocks while carrying the child. Branches tore his shirt, his clothes. The baby cried from fear. I know. Suddenly, a gunshot exploded near. Pain ripped through Obina's shirt. He fell hard into the mud. Cheka screamed. The armed men emerged from the darkness slowly. Their leader smiled coldly. It's over. Obina struggled desperately to stand. The man raised his rifle towards the child, gave him to him, but before he could fire, headlights burst through the forest. A large truck rolled onto the path unexpectedly. The armed men stumbled backward. Priests from the nearby mission jumped out, shouting. The gunmen fled immediately into the darkness. Obina collapsed beside the road, everything blood. The last thing he saw was little Cheka crawling towards him, crying. Then darkness swallowed everything. When Obina woke, the sunlight filtered through the church window. His shoulders were bulged. Birds chirped softly outside, and beside him sat Cheka, alive, safe. And the little boy smiled the moment Obina opened his eyes. A priest entered quietly. You protected you. Obina looked at the child, then slowly shook his head. No, his voice cracked slightly. He protected me. Weeks later, authorities finally uncovered the story. The Hamri band had worked for enemies of the Orchoko family, seeking inheritance money tied to the surviving child. Several arrests followed. The danger slowly faded, and one peaceful evening, Obina sat outside the church mission, watching Chika chase butterflies through the grass. The priest approached him gently. Will you return to your village? Obina looked at the baby, then smiled softly. No. Why? Obina watched Chika laugh beneath the sunset. Because this child already lost one, and I already lost one family. Chika ran towards him happily. Obina lifted him into his arms, this time not from fear, not by accident, but by choice. And as the evening sun painted the Nigerian sky gold and red, Obina finally understood something. Sometimes, destiny enters your life like a tragedy before revealing itself as a second chance. Thank you for walking along with us. Stay tuned for more.